Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My girlfriend keeps destroying my non-stick cookware. After that, oh, that was Katie's job. And after that, am I the jerk for asking my parents for their entire estate if they want me to be my sister's guardian? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to destroy anyone else's cookware. But scratching non-stick cookware is one of my favorite pastimes. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My girlfriend keeps destroying my non-stick cookware. Until she moved in with me, she had always lived at home. For some ungodly reason, her parents never taught her how to cook. She can reheat food and make spaghetti and stuff like that, but anything more complicated like a fried egg is hard for her. I have silicone rubber utensils that I use on my non-stick pans. It's great. Cleanup is so easy. She took about 2 weeks to destroy all of my non-stick pans. She uses forks or a metal spatula to move and scrape the food around. I had taken the time to show her how to use the non-stick stuff. I had shown her where all of the utensils were. Didn't matter. She scraped off the non-stick coating. So all the food she was making was sticking to the pan. I have no idea how she managed to do it, but somehow she got a grilled cheese sandwich stuck to the pan. She wants me to replace the pans now, so I did. I pulled my cast iron out of the garage. I cleaned it really well, and then I seasoned it all to make it non-stick. I also bought a bunch of those cloth covers for the handle so she doesn't burn herself. She's mad at me for making her use cast iron like Little House on the Prairie. I told her if she wants, she can purchase her own pans to cook in, but that since I don't like flakes of Teflon in my food, I won't eat any of it. She said she didn't damage my pans, so I let her buy one. Then I made bacon and a Spanish fried egg in it. Then I wiped it clean with some paper towels and showed her the pan. She had scraped off the coating in a couple of weeks. Now she's worried about all the Teflon that she's consuming. She went over to her parents and asked her mom how she never scratched up the pans. Her mom showed her the silicone utensil she has. She says that if I replace the pans, she promises to use the proper utensils. I offered to pay for half. She said that I was being a cheap jerk. Oh yeah, before I post, she's a full-grown 26-year-old adult. It's not like she's 18 or something. Not the jerk. That's not just not knowing how to cook. That's intentionally being destructive. She broke it, she buys the new ones. That's not on you. Not even half the price of it. Not the jerk. So you told and showed your girlfriend that she was doing a basic household chore in a manner that, to put it bluntly, was wrong. She was completely closed off to the possibility that she was wrong and was unwilling to consider that your opinion might be the correct one. But once her mommy showed your girlfriend she was wrong, she was willing to accept that she had, in fact, destroyed the non-stick pans. So your opinions about her basic life skills don't count while her mother's word is gospel? I hope I'm interpreting this situation incorrectly. Not the jerk. It's ridiculous that everyone knows you don't put metal in the microwave, but can't figure that out for non-stick coatings. Besides putting all the non-stick utensils on display and hiding all the metal stuff, you also need to teach her that the burner knobs have settings other than high or off. Oh, that was Katie's job. I was working for a manufacturer years ago. It was a small operation run by a husband, the CEO, and wife, with a sister business of a front-end platform that was run by the wife's brother. The husband's mom and some cousins also worked there between the two businesses. With an operation like this, you had the typical micromanagement from CEO, minimum wage pay for top dollar performance expectations, and the general nonsense you can expect in a setup like this. I had this job while in college and needed to build my resume. They let me have a flexible schedule so I could leave early for my night classes and when I had midterms and finals, so I knew I had to stick it out. After about 6 months of working there, my job responsibilities grew tremendously, but my salary did not. There was a high turnover rate in the office from the "we're a family" environment that meant actual family got special treatment and everyone else was expected to do a crazy amount of work without getting any credit. One of my friends, we'll call her Katie, was looking for work and my company was hiring. I told her what she was getting into, but as a recent college grad looking for office experience, she decided to give it a shot. First, my referral bonus never came, even after she had worked there for 90 days, and I was told that I shouldn't inquire about it because I referred someone to help the company, not to get the extra money. I wasn't in a position to push it, so I didn't. I trained Katie in her role as she was taking some of my old responsibilities. Well, the CEO and the wife didn't like how much time the two of us spent talking to each other or how much time we spent away from our desks, which was genuinely us using the restroom or getting water. This made no sense because I handled product onboarding and Katie suggested products for curated events, so it was important that she knew what new products were coming out and when she could start promoting them so that stock wouldn't sit in the warehouse. We separately had meetings with the CEO and office manager, putting us on probation for this behavior. Cue malicious compliance. We stopped talking as much in the office, effectively cutting me off from curated events and making it impossible for Katie to use our new products on the upcoming events. Events could be scheduled anywhere from a week to several months in advance, so it was a great way to boost sales and visibility for our new items. My friend ended up getting fired for having a brain and questioning some of the stupid policies. Also for doing something so outrageous as taking her unpaid lunch hour, showing up at 9 and leaving at 5. Normally, I would have gone back into the platforms to curate events until they found someone to take over the role, but I was petty. I had been there a little over a year. I was training employees, teaching myself the ins and outs of all of our retailer back-ends to upload products, coordinating with our factories overseas, the freight companies, and our warehouse so that products would be live as soon as we had stock and was still getting paid like I did for the minimal role I had when I got hired. So, not my job, not my problem. Fast forward a few months. The CEO decides to show up to work on the office floor instead of working out of his private office. Whenever he was on the floor, he was always super loud and disruptive to the general flow. I hear him talk about sales from the past few months, specifically about sales from events, so naturally my ears perk up. He starts getting louder. I don't get it. There's this huge decline in sales. None of our new products are getting any traction. I haven't been addressed, so I keep tapping away at my computer and act oblivious. He calls over the office manager and they start hashing it out. 6 months ago, the sales for our new items went down significantly. I'm thinking, yeah, duh. That's when you told me and Katie to stop talking. The initial data that was supplied with product photos and descriptions weren't clear. It would have been a very long process for Katie to sift through the new products to try and match them to events, as opposed to what we used to do, which was she would tell me the theme and what she was looking for, and I'd get her the data on a short list of items that she could review to match said events, as opposed to dumping 100 products on her. Then 3 months ago, they became almost non-existent. Sales have dropped almost 70% with these events. 3 months ago is when Katie got fired. Eventually, the two of them piece together that they need to blame whoever is curating events, and the CEO starts asking everyone in the office, whose responsibility is it to work on events? Finally, it gets to a point where I can't stay quiet. The office is too small, and I play too big of a role in product management, so I chime in. Oh, wasn't that Katie's responsibility? CEO replies, she hasn't worked here in 3 months. You mean to tell me no one has been submitting products for 3 months? He's livid, and it's clear that I'm now in the path of his rage. Why hasn't anyone been handling this? Everyone's kind of just looking around, and the office manager, let's call her Karen, starts shifting the blame onto me, since technically Katie was in my department. Once the finger pointing started, I was prepared to defend myself. Well, Karen, I thought you were the one who was in charge of managing and keeping track of every employee's role. So Karen replies, I am, but you knew this was an important part of our sales and marketing. I reply with, the week before she was let go, didn't you specifically get all of her passwords and a complete list of all of her tasks? Karen replies, yes. She's clearly concerned with where I'm going with this. And after she was let go, did you communicate to me that those tasks were now my responsibility? Karen, well, no, but I shouldn't have had to. Me, but you're in charge of delegating tasks and making sure all work is assigned to employees. Are you implying that I was supposed to know that you had a list of tasks unassigned? Why would I assume that you didn't delegate those to another team member when that's an essential part of your role? Needless to say, Karen was very annoyed with me, but I wasn't taking the fall. They didn't ask me to curate events. Karen handled that, which got them to hire another person very quickly because it was too much work for her on top of her other duties. The story of me and the new girl needs its own post, so I'll end this one here. Part 2. So we left off that CEO found a replacement for Katie shortly after Karen, the office manager, started doing Katie's job. Since I didn't know the replacement from before and was training her, let's call her Susie, They were all of a sudden totally fine with me meeting regularly with Susie to help her curate events, as well as provide new product options for her. Unfortunately, CEO used this to prove how awful Katie was, since after several months of Susie taking over, there was a nice boost in sales, especially for the newer products. Susie was in her early 40s and truly doing this job for fun. Her husband's salary was enough to cover their bills, but all her kids were in school and she wanted to feel productive. She had a lot less to lose than I did or Katie did, since she wasn't relying on this income. Very quickly, Susie realized that the office was run like a total crap show, with the CEO changing his mind every other day about how to handle tasks. I had another trainee that was helping me onboard products, and we were manufacturing new items so quickly that it was nearly impossible to get every new product into an event, which is what we were tasked with. So Susie and I decided to meet with CEO and Karen to go over realistic expectations and how best to handle our workload. We tried explaining that with the delays at port, we couldn't add the new items because anything that was out of stock was pulled from events, and that meant a different in-stock item wasn't being featured. CEO and Karen make it seem like they get it, but they truly don't. During the time that Susie began working there, I had 2 family emergencies several months apart. First, my cousin, 15 female, who wasn't from the US, had been working at a camp in the US over the summer and was spending her last week before she flew home with her grandparents. Her grandparents lived about 2 hours away from where I worked in traffic. I get a call from my dad. He's absolutely frantic. Cousin's grandfather had been rushed to the ER and she's now alone in their house and needs to leave for the airport. She's very distressed and they are nervous about her going to the airport alone. I tell my dad that I don't know if I can. Call the rest of our family first, and if no one else can do it, I'll go get her. About 15 minutes later, my dad calls me back. No one else can go get her. It's also important to note that I worked right near the airport where she was going to, so even though round trip would take me about 3 hours if I was lucky, once I dropped her off, I'd be able to come back to work pretty easily. I tell my boss there's a family emergency, that I'm clocking out and I'll make up my hours in the evening if necessary. I drive to pick up my cousin who's barely holding it together. I'm trying to calm her down, but she's so worried, especially since she knows that she will likely be on a plane when we all find out if grandfather is okay. With all the craziness of that morning, she hasn't eaten, so I took her to get some food for lunch and for the airport, which added a bit of time to the whole trip. I ended up back in the office about 5 hours later. It was now around 4 in the afternoon, but I was planning on making up that time. I come back in, and Karen is clearly annoyed with me and wants an explanation as to what happened. I was young and naive and thought explaining the situation would get me some sympathy. Several months after that, I got a call from my mom late at night. My uncle, who had been battling cancer, isn't going to make it. He has a DNR, but they're keeping him on life support for about 24 hours to give everyone a chance to say goodbye. I was the only person in my immediate family living in the US, so it was really important to me that I go see him. I call my work and tell them my uncle is about to pass away. I'm going to pay my respects. I'll be back on Monday. This was a Thursday night. I'll add that I didn't have anything time-sensitive due for work and told them to text me if they had any questions on Friday. My boyfriend comes with me so I don't have to do this whole trip alone, and we drive through the night to get to my uncle who is in a hospital a few states over. I get to spend a little time with him on Friday, and we did a family call with him that seemed to have lifted his spirit. He wasn't fully responsive at this point. I had a friend who lived between where my uncle was in the hospital and back home, so we stayed there Friday night. I wasn't ready to head home just yet, and Saturday night he was still breathing, even though he was off life support, so we ended up driving back to see my uncle. I didn't realize that he was off of life support at this point, and my boyfriend and I were in the room when my uncle passed. Needless to say, it was extremely emotional. The service wasn't going to be for another week or two, and he was being cremated, so we weren't able to stay and wait for that. We ended up on the road about 2 to 3 a.m. Sunday morning and found a hotel to crash for 6 hours before driving home. I arrived at work on Monday and I was a total wreck. Between watching my uncle pass and the lack of sleep, I'm barely keeping it together. I must have gone to the bathroom to cry every other hour. Well, the CEO decides Wednesday is the perfect day to meet about my job performance. He has a whole meeting with me about how people who make it far in business don't put their family first, and he's just about had enough of my family emergencies. I'm completely speechless since I wasn't expecting such a harsh reaction, and I meekly reply, "Okay." Keep in mind, I only missed 1 day of work. I regularly stayed late and came in early, But after our little chat, I was done doing that. I was going to be graduating from college in about 2 months and had finally had a strong enough resume to look for other work. After graduation, I asked CEO for a raise to go from $16.50 to $20 an hour. I knew we could negotiate and meet in the middle, but I was appalled when the response was, "We can do 17." I explained that I now had a degree, had been working there for 2 years, and at minimum $18 was standard for a post-grad. They finally agreed to that, but I was already salty after the family talk and was looking for jobs elsewhere. During all this time, Susie and I are using our Google Chat to coordinate things for work and maybe slightly complain about CEO and how he would tell us to do one thing, we'd explain why that wouldn't work, then he'd push us to try it. It would fail, and then he'd be annoyed that we didn't push back at his suggestions if we knew it wouldn't work. Again, I was young and stupid, and it didn't really occur to me that my work would be able to read those chats. We never straight out called him an idiot, but we definitely complained a lot. The company is having a hard time functioning since I'm not putting in overtime anymore. This meant that everyone I delegated tasks to often spent time doing nothing during the day while I prepped the work they needed to do. I used to come in an hour or two early and stay a few hours late so that come 9 a.m. I could meet with everyone on my team to delegate tasks and do any training for the new backends we would be using. I was missing work randomly at this point for job interviews, and between my department's productivity declining and missing days, I was put on probation yet again. At no point during this time did Karen or CEO have the sense to get my passwords, daily tasks, ask where I kept the trainings on my computer, etc. I have an interview for a great job that turned out to be a crap show much later on. I need to wait to post about it though since I'm still working there, and knew that if I missed another day at work, I may lose my job. I was penny pinching at this point, plus the new job wanted someone ASAP, so I figured I'd be okay financially if they did fire me. 2 days after the job interview that I missed work for, I get a call at like 9:30 at night from a number I don't recognize while I'm at the gym. I had been applying for lots of jobs and didn't want to miss a call, so I answered. It was CEO, telling me that he no longer felt I was a good fit for the company and they were letting me go. I knew I'd get unemployment, and it wasn't like I could argue, so I said thank you for the opportunity, and we ended the call. I then call Susie immediately to tell her what just happened. As I'm in the middle of speaking, she says, "Hold on, I'm getting a call from another number." You guessed it, it was CEO firing her too. I was getting unemployment for about 2 weeks before I started at my new job, which was actually a nice break for me since I hadn't really had time off in several years. I'm at my new job and I start getting emails from Karen. They want passwords, documents, etc. I tell them that everything was saved in my Google Drive and anything that isn't there, I don't remember. Karen then calls me to get me to verbally confirm that nothing was saved on my computer and it was all in Google Drive. So I said, yeah, that's how you ask these files to be saved so that everyone had access. I knew how stupid this was on their part because you always want documents like this saved to your computer so that you have the original, and sometimes Google Drive malfunctions. But I maliciously complied when they told me Google Drive was enough. Well, they didn't realize that when they deactivated my email, all the files that I was the owner of would disappear. They didn't have a clear list of my tasks and had an impossible time resetting any passwords since, per their request, all of the logins used my email address. How do you reset a password when the email used for login is deactivated? Anyways, I laughed myself to sleep that night. Am I the jerk for asking my parents for their entire estate if they want me to be my sister's guardian? I, female 23, have been told my entire life that if anything happens to my parents, I will be my sister's guardian. She's 33 and has some disabilities. She's currently living in a group home. The government pays for a good portion of the cost, but not all. My parents have made sure that they have accessed every resource available for her to make sure that she has as good a life as she can. We were visiting her this last weekend when they brought it up again. They're both reasonably healthy, but they both had health scares in the last couple of years. They once again said that I would be her guardian. I've been giving this a fair bit of thought. I have 2 older brothers. They're both married and established in their careers. They would be better choices than I am. I want to go see the world. I'm lucky enough that my job can be done from anywhere that I have access to the internet. When we went to dinner, I brought it up and said that I had 3 ideas. 1. They make all 3 of us her guardians so that we could split the responsibilities and the duties. 2. They leave their entire estate to my sister in a trust that will oversee her care. 3. They leave me their entire estate with the proviso that I become her sole guardian and take full responsibility, minus sentimental stuff for the rest of the family, obviously. I thought this was fair since it's not like they're rich, and their estate will mostly consist of their house and the insurance policies they took out when they realized the long-term costs of care for my sister. They said that I'm trying to avoid my responsibility to my sister and that I'm greedy for trying to get everything. I had one last suggestion and they really hated it. I said that they were welcome to cut me completely out of their will, but that had to include guardianship of my sister. They could leave everything to her and my brothers, but that meant I would be completely free of responsibility for her care. My dad got really angry and my mom was crying when I left. My brothers both called me to say that I was being a jerk for springing this onto my parents, and that I was being greedy trying to keep them and their families from getting anything when our parents pass on. I asked both of them if they wanted 100% responsibility for our sister in return for the entire estate. I volunteered to sign away everything to them. Neither of them took me up on the offer. Not the jerk. Love how your brothers are mad because you're calling out their BS. So your parents want you to put your entire life on hold to care for your sister with no actual benefit? Why would you do that? I mean, yes, it's not your sister's fault, but it's also not your fault. Split 3 ways is fair. Yeah, it's super telling that both brothers had nothing to say when OP basically called them out on their crap. It's good that she's being rational and not letting her family members guilt her into getting their way. Not the jerk. So your brothers want 1/3 of the estate, but you do all the care? Pfft, stand your ground. Guest spent forever leaving the room after checkout. Now she's spending the night in jail. Guest had been staying with us for a while, paying cash daily, always paying late. But I only really work afternoons and don't ever hear about it. Come in this afternoon at 3 and see her name on the checkout list. She never paid for the room at all today. So I go over to her room and talk to her, and I tell her that if she can't pay for the room right away, she has to leave. She gives us the usual sob story about her brother coming to pick her up from a city hours away, and she doesn't know why he isn't here yet. So I play nice. I tell her that if we're talking about a few minutes, we can wait. Otherwise, she needs to leave the room. I gave her a full half hour because this was effectively the first warning. I go back. This is about 3:40 now, and I knock. No answer. Knock again. No answer. Knock a third time. No answer. So I open the door, and she's laying out on the bed, totally asleep. She wakes up after I yell at her and goes back to her routine of, "I just need to call someone to get the money." I tell her flat out she needs to leave the room right then. "Are you mad at me or something?" "I'm not happy with you. I told you a long time ago to leave, and you weren't even trying to." "But I have so much stuff." "I brought a cart to help you out, but you need to go now." I'm cutting out so much of the witty banter because it really is all that tedious. "Can I?" "No, you need to leave." "But I just need..." "Ma'am, it's already 4 p.m. "Haha, no way." "Yes way." "That's funny. And you look so good with your hair." I've been growing my hair out and it's starting to look good, but I wasn't going to take that bait. "Ma'am, you need to leave, and if I have to tell you again, I will be calling the police." "They're going to arrest me?" "Probably not, unless you have a warrant. Or you could be an adult and start moving your stuff." I pointedly avoided saying leave the room because of the promise. "Well, okay, but first I need to take a shower." "No, you are not. If you wanted a shower before you left, you should have done it at 10 a.m., not 4 p.m. I pull out my phone and start dialing the non-emergency number. She goes off into the bathroom. I left since the police were now on their way. Took about a half hour for the cops to come in, and she tries to pretend she can't hear them. We can hear her talking clearly on the other side of the door. She tries to talk to them without unlocking it, and the cops get me to get the tool to open the security latch. One of these days, I'll make a tool that works better. She does ultimately open the door and talks to the officers. She doesn't see me at first, so she makes it sound like she didn't know it was so late and that she's just waiting for more money. Then she sees me. "Oh, he's right there." Cop doesn't care. I already told him that it was too late to pay. We just want her gone. After all, she'll just pull the same stunt tomorrow. Guest nods and says that she'll pack her stuff, then closes the door on the cop and locks it again. Cop locks eyes with me. "Yeah, I'm gonna take her in." I use the tool to get through the latch. It took an embarrassing number of tries, and the cops go into the room and arrest her for trespassing. Oh boy, did this sweet old lady with her high voice and the childlike attitude change into the grouchiest ogre I've seen in years. Cops had her out of the room and started pulling all of her stuff to go with her. You want a pizza with everything on it? You got it. This happened about 10 years ago when I was working at a pizza restaurant as a waiter. I'll not mention the name, but it's a very popular place in the US. This was in a small southern town and one of the versions of this restaurant that had a substantial dining room for a pizza place. Generally, I went out of my way to find my customers the best deals on their pizzas. I didn't believe in running up a huge bill to try and milk a higher percentage. Well, one day this changed. I was waiting tables per usual, and a customer came in with a very rude attitude. I'll call him Rudy. Among other things, he insisted I hurry up as soon as he ordered his drink and questioned why I, a male in my 20s at the time, was a waiter since waiting tables is a job for high school girls. I took this particularly personally since I had worked hard for this job and I was darn good at it. It came time for Rudy to order his pizza. He wanted to order a medium hand-tossed with everything. Now, I knew what Rudy meant. People had, and I presume still have, various terms they use for specialty pizzas. When someone said everything, or combination, or some variation, they meant a supreme pizza. Pepperoni, sausage, beef, mushrooms, pepper, and onions. Every other time, I would seek clarity and ask if they meant our supreme pizza. But not this time. This time, I thought it was time for some malicious compliance. Here's how it went. Me. You want one medium hand-tossed pizza with everything on it? Is that correct, sir? Rudy. Did I stutter? It's not a hard order. Yes, I want a medium hand-tossed with everything. Think you can handle that? Me. Of course, sir. I will have that right out to you. What Rudy didn't realize was supreme pizzas did not have everything. Not by half. In reality, we had almost 24 different toppings at this place. It's been a while, but off the top of my head, I remember sausage, Italian sausage, pepperoni, bacon, Canadian bacon, chicken, all kinds of stuff. So I went to the computer and began building one medium pizza with everything. I also made it a point to start from a blank base and not build from a supreme reconfiguration. Once I was done inputting this monstrosity, my shift lead noticed the ticket and came back to me and asked, Shift leader, OP, what in the world is this? Me. Customer asked for a pizza with everything on it, shift leader. Shift leader. You know he probably wants a supreme, right? Me. I double-checked and verified, shift leader. He told me multiple times he wanted a medium hand-tossed pizza with everything on it. Seemingly satisfied with this answer, my shift lead went back to the cooks and told them to make it. This thing turned out gross. It was so piled on with toppings, the cooks literally had to press it down. Because there were so many toppings, the standard amount of cheese did nothing to cover them like a traditional pizza should. It was effectively just a hot pile of meat and veggies when it came out of the oven. Once it was out, I put on my best professional smile and delivered the pizza to the table. I had to use 2 hands, it was so heavy. When he looked at his pizza, he did not have the volatile reaction I expected. It was more of a mix of confusion, disappointment, and bewilderment, and then stern rejection. Rudy. What is this? Me. Your pizza, sir. You asked for a pizza with everything on it. That's not what I wanted. I wanted a supreme. Me. Sir, that's not what you asked for. You asked for a pizza with everything on it. At this time, I honestly expected him to fight more and demand to see a manager, but seemingly realized I had given him exactly what he had asked for, he just sort of begrudgingly accepted it. I asked him if I could get him anything else, and he said no. I left and I kept an eye on him. He poked around at a slice for a few minutes, but obviously found it unappetizing. The best part was when I got to bring him his ticket, with each of those toppings rang in individually. Rudy ended up being charged $45 for one medium pizza with everything. I was like the cat that ate the canary the rest of my shift. I hate to disappoint anyone who may be wanting a huge fallout, but the man had effectively resigned himself to his fate. He paid the bill without incident, though he did stiff me on the tip, as I had expected. I never saw the man again. I later told my shift lead the full story. They laughed and acknowledged the guy deserved it, but told me not to make a habit of that, to which I agreed. Am I the jerk for taking in my cousin and supporting her against her parents' wishes? This happened recently, but the situation was building up for a while now. My cousin, Anna, who's 19, called me, 29 male, in tears, asking if she could stay with me for a while. When I told my wife, she had no hesitation in saying yes, because we both know the situation and left to go pick Anna up. The situation is this. For her whole life, Anna has done what her parents want. This includes how she dresses, when she has to be home, what she studies at uni. It's caused Anna to be very unhappy with life. Now, anyone who knows Anna knows the one thing she loves, and is very good at, is cooking. Her parents have decided that cooking isn't good enough and forced Anna to go to university. She just finished her first year in 2022, and unsurprisingly, she didn't do too well, mainly because she didn't want to be there. When she called me, she had a massive argument with her parents where she said she's sick of them living through her, and her parents basically told her to leave the house. When Anna got to my place, my wife and I told her she's welcome to stay with us indefinitely. Honestly, it's been great because her mood has definitely been lifted, and my daughters adore their auntie, and she adores them. Anna was with us for roughly a week, and then we got a knock at the door. It was my mom and Anna's mom, sisters. They wanted to talk to Anna. I asked Anna if she wanted me to kick them out, and she said it was fine. So there was my mom and aunt, Anna, my wife, and myself, discussing what needs to be done about Anna. Before anyone said anything, I asked Anna what does she want to do. She told everyone she wants to take culinary classes and find work at a restaurant. My aunt said that while Anna lived under her roof, that would not be happening. My wife and I said basically simultaneously, under our roof, she can do that. My mom then asks if we're really going to insert ourselves into someone else's family business, and I said of course, especially after Anna called us crying. I said I've seen Anna be unhappy for years, and now she finally has a chance to be herself. My aunt warns Anna that if she doesn't change her attitude, she isn't welcome back home, and this is her final chance. Anna starts to cry and says this past week she's been the happiest she's ever been, and she doesn't want to leave. My aunt looks at my wife and asks if she really wants Anna living with her. She tells her, "We have a spare bedroom with an ensuite. We make more than enough money to send Anna to culinary school, and our kids love having Anna here." I chime in and say, "Our house is bigger, cleaner, and in a much better location than my aunt's house, and I make much more money than my aunt and uncle, so Anna is really getting a nice upgrade." My aunt gets up and says she doesn't need to listen to my disrespect, and my mom says that that was uncalled for. But I tell my mom, we all know I'm right. So, am I the jerk for taking in my cousin in this situation? Not the jerk for taking her in, but yikes at you telling your aunt, "I make more money than you and I'm better than your filthy self in every way."
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.